Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Tuesday morning edition of Sidelines. Got Chris Lee, Southeastern 14, on with us up in Nashville. Brenden Martin, executive producer down in the limestone capital, horse capital of the world, Ocala, Florida. So, Chris, man, basketball season, we're a third of the way through in the SEC schedule right now. I don't think any team other than Tennessee maybe is pulled away from the pack. And then Alabama's really good. Auburn has lost 2 straight on the road, but they weren't blown out. Ole Miss is 17-3 in the league. They're 4-3 in the first year under Chris Beard. South Carolina's won 17 or 18 games. Arkansas got to be the biggest disappointment. But is there a team out there that you think is that much better than anybody other than Tennessee?
No, I don't. And I always start to reserve judgment on things until later in the season. And I'll give you an example. I'm not trying to pick on this team, but you remember Bruce Pearl's Walker Kessler team that just looked invincible.
Yeah.
And then some cracks started to show maybe late February. And this is all from memory. I could be wrong on some of this, but point is you see teams that look phenomenal or teams that look just very ordinary. And I think, didn't UConn lose 6 in a row at one point last year?
Yeah.
And in a day and age, and this is a long way around to get to the answer, but we're in a day and age where you got transfer portal. It takes longer for teams to gel. You got all kinds of other issues. And so I guess I'm conservative in rushing to judgments. I see, in my mind, 4 teams sort of at the top of the heap here, or that could be. Now, I don't think Kentucky's going to have enough wins to get there eventually, but I think it's probably a race between Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, and I think Kentucky could be better than any of them in the very end. We'll see about that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of parity. And look, you're seeing most nights, any team can play just about any other team and make it interesting. I mean, you've seen Georgia put a scare into teams. You've seen LSU win on the road. Lots of stuff like that. And
yeah,
I think other than Vanderbilt, and even Vanderbilt doesn't get beat by 30 points. I mean, they held Tennessee within 13, and that's kind of what Vanderbilt does. But I mean, point being that I think you've got some teams at the top, but even those teams, especially on the road, are in a little bit of danger.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, you mentioned that Auburn team, and they peaked out too early in that season and didn't do anything in the postseason. And I look at Tennessee, every year they've got a top 5 type talent. They don't go real far in the tournament. I mean, Alabama last year, it was unusual because they were a number 1 seed overall, and then they ran into San Diego State, and they were no match for them. But you look at the top 10 teams in the country right now. Life on the road is about 500. So if you can serve at home, a term that I like to hear, and win 8 out of 9 or all 9 conference games, then go 5-4 on the road or 6-3, you can win this league. I think that's what it takes.
Yeah, and I would say peak too soon. I don't like that term because to me, like, what do you do about that? Do you deliberately play worse in January and February?
No,
I mean, I get it.
Stupid term. You're right.
No, but people use it all the time. I think you got so much scouting and sophisticated stuff. People can figure out what you do. I mean, I think for some of these teams, you wonder if getting to the NCAA tournament is going to be a little bit of a break. Without Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl playing each other twice a year and everybody knowing what the other is going to do like the back of their hand. Now, look, that applies to teams at the legal play too, but it's just, I don't know. We could start to make judgments soon on some of these teams, but I'm not all the way. I have some ideas, but I'm not all the way there yet because history tells me that's just not the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back and destroy that term. I'm not going to say we're going to remove it, but to peak too soon, I hate that. I do hate that term. It's like when people say you get a big win against the team, the next week you're going to be flat or a letdown. That's absurd. I'm a extremely competitive person. If I sell something, I cannot wait to get back on the phone and sell more of it. If I'm a fisherman and I'm out in the Gulf of Mexico on the finest kind charter boat, and I'm into the snapper or the grouper or the mackerel, as soon as my line comes up out of the water, that deckhand's going to give me another one with bait already on. I want more of it. And that is a ridiculous term. The problem is it applies to a lot of people, though. They do well at something and they sit on their butt and just look what I did. Hey, the only easy day was yesterday is how I approach things. And I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, you're going to have some games where you play really well, but that shows that you're capable of doing it. It ought to be easier to do that more often. I'm glad you pointed that out. Pivotal moment in Sidelines history. I'm glad you did. I'm serious because that is a terrible term to use.
Well, the other one, if you want a pet peeve, the other one that kills me is it's hard to win 5 in a row or 6 in a row or 10 in a row. Well, it's not so hard if you're trying to win 11 in a row and you've just won 10. We act like a team's got to go out and win 11 in a row again to get to 11. That's always driven me nuts.
Brendan's down there, the son of Buddy Martin. Those two have heard a lot of crazy stuff before, but I feel like I'm in the psychiatrist's office right now, Brendan, listening. But it's true. You hear these commentators get on there. Another one is they'll say that it's hard to beat the same team twice in the same season in football. Well, in SEC matchups for the SEC championship, it heavily favors the team that won the first time. So I look at that as well.
Yeah, I mean, and until it doesn't, I mean, and there's also just a lot of randomness and stuff. I think I'm much better at reverse engineering an explanation than telling you what's going to. You just don't ever know what's going on inside a locker room. Now, I do believe somewhat in the you come off a big win, you might be a letdown. I mean, these teams know who they're playing. If you're playing Vanderbilt on a given night, you're not facing Alabama, and I do think some teams play down to that. Yeah, they might have their attention gotten just in the nick of time to win those games. I do think it's a thing, especially with college kids. But anyway, I've gotten us off the path. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. But I'll tell you, how's it going? Right. I just was saying, it's funny because when we I worked in live broadcasting for a long time, and we talk about people and coaches are the same way as sometimes the sports announcers, where we sort of tend to hear these things. What are the keys to the game? What are the top 3 things that are going to happen? There's just these redundancies that that sort of seem to circulate all the time, and I think sometimes it's just lack of really, drilling down on what the issue is now. I think we owe it to ourselves to have a bigger lexicon of words at this point, if we can consider it now. NIL, transfer portal, and all those are a part of the college sports dictionary.
Yeah, they are. And it's a thing about competition. You look at the SEC in basketball, you're right. It's human nature. If you're playing someone and you think in your mind they're not that good, it's also human nature. If you see this happen a lot when you're playing someone that is way better than you on paper and you're playing with them or you're ahead of them, there's a tendency to go, well, we're going to lose anyway. We might as well just quit because they're better than us. You can't believe that. You cannot allow other people to walk through your mind with their dirty feet, as Gandhi said. And that's the psychology of sports. And Chris, you are up there in Nashville. You're seeing Vanderbilt. What's going on with them? It's got to be so frustrating because boom, Cumberland. I mean, Nashville, I'm in Memphis. I say I go to Nashville a lot and have a lot of friends that have moved up there. Okay. There's got to be a way that because you would be the guy to do it, could funnel all these sharp people to get involved with Vanderbilt. And the only thing that would stop them would be if Vanderbilt is okay with what they've got right now. Because if you look at Tim Corbin, they got the best baseball program in America in the last decade. Why not let Tim Corbin spread that synergy and have you as the spokesman? I'm serious. I mean, I watch you. I got a lot of people, and we're building this Sidelines Sports Network. That's what Brenden, our executive producer, is doing. Brenden, when I talk about building the network, this is the kind of guy, because he works harder than a dozen rented mules. But I get a lot of friends texting me and going, Chris is very modest, and they're saying it on the show today. But you need to be up there telling them that, because Vanderbilt could be so much more.
Well, look, that's what I've thought for a long time. And I'll do some podcasts on this on the Vanderbilt podcast I do in the next couple of weeks. I've kind of held back a lot of stuff on how it works, and sometimes you just got to do that to protect yourself for different reasons. But
sure.
I covered them for about 15 years, during which I sort of made the assumptions that they wanted the other things that all the other athletics departments wanted. 2018 was the start of a very slow revelation that whatever you think about athletic departments, when you get to Vanderbilt, and it took a lot to pound this into my head, because there's always this, well, of course this is the way it works, right? And no, it's not. And because people have a hard time believing it when I tell them, but the last 6 years have been fascinating, starting with when David Williams finally retired, was pushed out to see how it worked, because they had a chance to go grab a legitimate athletic director at the end of 2018 and just chose not to. Some of it I won't get into today. Some of it I probably just can't. And seeing how it is unwound and played out from there, look, I'll give you an example. I think this would do a lot to illustrate it just quickly. Vanderbilt women's basketball used to be a powerhouse. Now, Shea Ralph is getting them back there to respectability. And I would guess this team makes a tournament this year, but they haven't been in 9 or 10 years. There was a string where Vanderbilt went to the women's tournament, and I don't follow that program closely, but I follow it enough to know the big picture.
Yeah.
21 to 22 years. Now, their AD was a player for some of those powerhouse teams. So if anybody should know how it works and how to put it together, it should be the AD. But the stuff that controls your grip on power and the stuff that controls the way things are done there has nothing to do with wins and losses. And I'll give you an example to illustrate this. Stephanie White had taken the women's team to 5 straight losing seasons. And the 5th season, they went 0-4. The team said, we're done. And they blamed it on COVID. Middle of the season, perfectly healthy kids, they just quit. Now, if team just quits and folds on the season, that'll send up alarm bells. That sent up nothing there. And so she was asked, Candace Lee, their athletic director, was asked in the paper, are you planning on making a change? She said no. The version of the story I got is that the chancellor saw that hit the paper and said, hey, hang on, wait a minute. Don't go doing that without consulting me first. And again, the program was driven as much into the ditch, maybe more than the men's is right now. And they did not blink. That's what was going to happen. She was going to get a 6th year.
Yeah.
After about 6 weeks of in between that hitting the paper and her being fired, I'm sure there were discussions. What I was told was the driver wasn't the losing record. It was they were losing kids. That affects their graduation rates. And so you would think that, hey, losing all those games should have gotten her fired before that season to begin with. It didn't get her fired after that season, which not only included a bunch of losses, included a team quitting. That didn't move the needle. What did move the needle was kids leaving, which affects your graduation rates. My understanding is that's what got her gone. So my point here, and it could play out a bunch of different ways, is whatever you think the determining factors are at Vanderbilt, traditionally they haven't been.
Yeah. Well, an athletic director, if I'm an athletic director, I give everybody a few years, but you got to show in the first year that you've got the fight and then you got the drive, and you're going to have to work hard. The year of the pandemic, the panic lockdowns, schools that allowed that to control them, they're still paying for it. That's the truth here. And I remember saying and on Sidelines, we had some national media people on, and they were all bound and determined to shut down college athletics. Mm-hmm. No more. We cannot play. And I said, I don't care if it shorts everybody in the world. I didn't even want to say what I said. And I just said, we're going to play college football in the South. You were talking about the most disciplined athletes that get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning voluntarily to go do mat drills and work out and speed and hill repeats. We will find a way to make it work. The worst thing we can do is park these vehicles, park these athletes on the side of the road and let them do nothing. I said, that's the worst thing anybody can do. Well, we've got this virus. I said, we'll get through it. But we got to play sports. And so, and it's not, well, you're putting sports ahead of no. You got to be physically fit, mentally alert, morally straight. You start sitting around doing nothing, you'll go crazy. And that's what some of these athletic departments did, and they're still paying for it. You have to fight back or you're done. And that's I'm with Chris. No, I've never talked to anybody. What you're saying about Vanderbilt, it's got to just make you pull your hair out. And their fan base, they've got so many sharp people that you and I both know that graduated from that school. It's got that reputation. You get an MBA from Vanderbilt, I mean, good God, look what you could sell to student athletes.
The problem with changing Vanderbilt, it's the political pressure. Look, I got banned from the press box for half of 2020, but you can't do that under the governing rules of college football. But they found a way. I think they didn't know they could do it.
What did you do? How did you get? What can you tell us what you did? Or
Oh, it was a lot of things I did. I think the main thing is when they fired their entire media relations staff and told nobody, and that was a phenomenal media relations. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to take the messaging in house and align it with the university's messaging. And they let one day you woke up and they let maybe the best baseball media relations director in the country go. Tim Corbin didn't have any idea. Somebody called him and said, "Hey, what are we going to do now that this happened?" He's like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And it was that. And that I wrote an article about it. You can go find it if you want to. It got tens of thousands of views, and it got me in a lot of trouble. But it was true. And the problem with it at the time is it didn't sound. And here's the problem with Vanderbilt: the truth about stuff sounds stranger than whatever fiction you can invent, because it doesn't run like a normal place. And so you kind of have to say your piece, back off it, and let the results kind of speak for themselves. And in the meantime, if you do, people are like, "You're crazy. You've gone off the deep end. You don't know what you're talking about." But and that's just kind of how it is over there. But it's played out there. Candace Lee's been the AD coming up on 4 years next week. As bad as their football's been, under her tenure, they had the only winless season in the history of the program. That happened 4 years ago. Again, didn't finish the season. They blamed it on COVID. Morale had a lot to do with it. Women's basketball collapsed, didn't finish the season. And now you see what's happened with basketball. And by the way, the game Saturday, it was about, I wasn't there, but from what I understand from multiple people, 70 to 80% Tennessee people in the building, which was unfathomable a few years ago.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about Vanderbilt? And I'm sorry, Rob, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just was curious because, I've obviously covering the Gators and I've been to Vandy. I've gone to games there. I've done all that stuff. But the sort of the knock when you really sit there and talk about it, and I'm not asking you to talk about their, the school's business or anything, but it's just curious to me. It's just like, it's kind of like where like University of College, CU Boulder was for a long time before Dion, right? It was just the town or the school, like everything was fighting them, right? Everything was fighting like nobody wanted to let them go or grow. Like the sports program always just seemed to be sort of clipped, and I guess that's always how it always felt until you get different leadership and whatever. And that's how Dion ended up at Boulder. But prior to that, I mean, Boulder was dead for football and sports in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of a tangent to your question, but I think this is illustrative of the way things. I think there's a common perception that Vanderbilt is anti-athletics. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think they see sports as a way to get their messaging out. With the Sarah Fuller or whatever. And that's the place that's had control of the program for a while. It's, they would lose a game by 50 points, but their press releases would all lead with, well, our coaches are this and that, and we're the only school in the Power Five with this combination or whatever. And I mean, you can go read them for yourself. They probably still out there on the internet. Point I'm making is I don't think they're anti-athletics. They see it as kind of like a game. like you and I going and playing golf on the weekend. They see sports like that. They see it as a messaging piece. And that's why they don't get alarmed over results. Nobody's wanting them to drop the SEC. I mean, they're on TV. That's a big check. There's not a push for that. It's just they run the thing. Somebody said it to me this way that knows it really well. Winning and losing is on a list of things, but it's on a list of like 74 other things over there. Yeah. And I think that's just kind of how it goes. And I don't think you understand it until you've really seen it firsthand. It's like speaking a foreign language to people.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw this one at you. When they played the kicker back in 2020, I told some people, I said on this show, I said, what if they tried a fake field goal and they kick the ball out to her and she's going around right end and Takeo Spikes is out there waiting for her, or Javon Curse, or Dallas Turner, or Will Anderson Jr., or Derek Hall with about a 20-mile-an-hour head of speed in the open field. They hit her, and then next thing you know, we're having congressional hearings about football is too violent and we're going to have to end it. You go back to 1906, 19 players died in that season. Had it not been for the mother of the Georgia player who died appealing on the floor of the state legislature in the state capitol in Atlanta to the governor that he would not have wanted us to end this game, who knows what would have happened. But a year or two later, Teddy Roosevelt got the ball rolling on what's the NCAA. And I'll say another thing. Vanderbilt, I think you talk about this APR, about your graduation rate affecting a lot of things. Going forward, I'm going to make a prediction on this show because I'm in the finance world and I see a lot of trends. You're going to possibly see the SEC and conferences around the country start doling out revenue from the conference based on your progress as an athletic program as well. And when you start having accountability like that, you're going to get people's attention. This isn't an attack on Vanderbilt. It's an attack on any school. You pick the school in the conference. You've got to be trying and making an effort, okay? And using athletes to get your message out. That could have been dangerous if that girl would have been. Everybody knows it. And I've got two daughters. And this is not, I got two daughters and two sons. And one of them went to Alabama. She's still a good person. I love her. But another three are Auburn. But I'm just saying, this show, don't ever worry. The First Amendment is ardently and fervently revered on this show. We don't tell people what to say, how to say it, or when to say it. That's why I love having you on. I love the background set, by the way. And I'm looking, I want to do the show with you when you add the new pennants for OU in Texas. That's going to be fun.
That's going to require some engineering. I got an idea for it, but, and I've got to go record my own stuff in it, but just quickly, you know, that was funny. I knew that whole thing was fraudulent. I got locked out of the Missouri Zoom press conference because they had national writers in to tell the story they wanted. There were multiple kickers who could have kicked that day. Yeah. And one of the concerns that I raised ahead of time was safety. All right, she's on the kickoff team. What if they run a kickback and she's and not only just not, I mean, she'd never practiced that in her life. To me, that's putting somebody in harm's way. Yeah. And the way that got handled, Vanderbilt always kind of knows who it can go to for its messaging. I basically got called in a national outlet at sexist for saying that. And that's how the world works. It's sort of, it's call names and distract from the facts. And that's kind of the world we live in. You have to kind of continue to broadcast the truth over time, because in the moment there's a lot of people that'll try to pick it off.
Well, the bottom line is you stood up, you said what you believed. We need more Chris Lees out there. I know you got to go on a tight schedule. Love having you on. Want to find a way when we can get you to roll in, because Ben Troupe's coming on next. I love it when you can roll in with our guests, but tell people how they can follow you, because you do great work, but more than anything, you're a truth broker, and that's what Sidelines Sports Network loves.
Yeah, look, I'm always happy to come on with you. Sorry we didn't have a little more time today. Respect Ben's work a lot. I'm at Southeastern 14. You can find us there on YouTube. A name change is coming. I won't give it away, but right now, go to YouTube, search Southeastern 14. That's how you can find most of our work. We cover SEC football, baseball, basketball, wall to wall, and then I'm the publisher at Vandy Rivals too. So if you want your Vandy fix, we got a site there, and I've got a podcast there too.
Well, hey, look, we're going to be talking a lot about baseball. It's going to be here soon. So we'll do it next week, all right?
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. Love having Chris Lee. Brenden, that's exactly what Sideline Sports Network thrives on, as we do.
Driving.
The little man from Swainsboro, Georgia, who grew up to be a big guy, who's the product of a lot of great people, Mr. Synergy. And I just think about that. I'm just going to be straight up.
Don't blow his head up too much, Rob, because he gets a little above his raisins.
No way.
I have not been with him in the morning, so I can only imagine he's a little extra animated right now. Unless you start calling me by my proper nickname, which is Smoke, and we came up with that a long time ago based off all what movie we were talking about, I forget. But nonetheless,
Biker Boys.
That's right. You call me.
Hey, I love having him. I love having him on. I'll tell you, speaking of biker groups, a cool thing, when I was a reporter at 89 and 90 and 91 in Columbus, 89 and 90 at Channel 3 in Columbus, Georgia, some of the coolest things I ever got to do were do stories on biker groups, especially around Christmas, around Columbus. All the money they raised for charities and toys. And there was one group called the Wingmen. They were all RIs, Ranger instructors from the 4th Ranger Training Battalion at Fort Benning. They were cool as hell. And they were serious they were real bikers, as opposed to these people now that, are wearing a suit, riding on their bike just to say they're a biker. They were real bikers, but the biker boys, I like that. Hey, Ben, when we were watching football over the weekend, man, we went to my place. I love this place, Craig's Barbecue in Devall's Bluff, Arkansas. And you talk about, we're going to do a series of documentaries, and you'll be on that food tour with us, because my wife says I'm a food whore. I mean, I get excited about food. And when I get my friend Chef Roger Watson on here, he's the greatest chef. He worked for Gordon Ramsay for 8 years. He is so much fun to have on the show. Well, you go to Craig's Barbecue, and they have the pie lady over there, and the chocolate pies, the coconut pies, but they do sliced pork loin, and it's unbelievable with the chopped coleslaw and their Craig's mild, medium, or hot sauce. We bought 24 of those sandwiches back with extra sauce to watch the football games over the Sunday. Well, obviously we had the first one, the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs to beat Baltimore straight up, because I said, I know everybody's saying that they've struggled to get it together this year. I said, but they're getting it together now, and they'll go on the road, and nobody's giving them a chance. But I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. And the other one, At first I thought San Francisco had Detroit, and then I said, I think Detroit goes in there and stuns them. And at halftime, I said, I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I said, San Francisco is going to come out in the second half, and they're going to be on fire. And Detroit couldn't respond. But kind of your takeaway from both of those games, just Cliff Note version, what you saw and how many SEC players were out there. My God, it was incredible. Got to plug the SEC.
Yeah, the thing about Kansas City and Baltimore is, you can't beat experience. The thing about, people always say this about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, to me, is one of the premier players in the National Football League, but he's staring at the player in the National Football League. And the thing about a guy like Patrick Mahomes is, Patrick Mahomes, what makes him the greatest is he plays the best in the biggest games. Like, he's gonna give you everything he's got. I don't know why the defense went into the game with the Baltimore Ravens not understanding you got to stop 87. The driving force for the Kansas City offense is obviously Patrick Mahomes. The guy that really makes it go is 87.
Yeah.
If every time he has a good game, it's going to be really, really hard to beat him, because he's a momentum guy. You would think a guy who, I think he has the most receiving yards. He has the most receptions and most receiving touchdowns in postseason history, above who? Jerry Rice, Gronk, Tom Brady.
Who's that?
And I just with so much was said about Kansas City offense, Patrick Mahomes. That defense said, look, we're not going to let Lamar Jackson be Lamar Jackson. And yes, Zay Flowers, I understand the big fumble and the taunt and stuff. In the biggest game, you taunting each other, you're gonna lose the game for things that have nothing to do with the game. I was just really, really impressed again by Patrick Mahomes, because most guys play their best not when certain people are watching. When everybody's watching, Patrick Mahomes gonna show you. You might only see me play one game. That's the guy everybody been talking about. That's him right there, and he's gonna get it done every single time. And the thing about Detroit, what's going to be the biggest head scratcher in the world is Dan Campbell said something after the game. He said, "We may never be back. You might not. You got to take the points." I get wanting to go for it on fourth down. You got to take the points, Dan, because San Francisco was on their heels. But San Francisco is the type of team, if you give them any life, they're going to smother you. If you give them any type of break, and I do think Detroit just played out of their mind this year. I do think Dan Campbell is the guy moving forward. But the last time we saw San Francisco in this position, they was in the Super Bowl. And you know what George Kittle said? We'll be back. You see how long it took them to get back? Detroit, they don't have that type of tradition. They don't have a team and a culture that says we're going to be back. Based off of what? Based off of there go Barry Sanders and there go Calvin Johnson. Most people, there go Eminem, there go Jalen Rose.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's going to be the biggest what could have been we'll ever see, because football is all about momentum. And the hardest thing about momentum is having it and snatching it. Well,
that's right.
Detroit had it, like that. and then San Francisco snatched it, and they didn't give it back. And Dan Campbell after the game, it's so easy to say, I still respect my decision because my job isn't on the line. If your job was on the line, you don't call that play. See, and I respect Dan Campbell for what he was as a player, what he is as a coach. I think he's earned it the hard way. But when you watching this Super Bowl and you saying to yourself, dude, what? We were better than them for 2 quarters. And then once Brock Purdy and those guys started getting it together, it was hard to take it back. And hey, it was still great football. I'm never ever gonna take away from what San Francisco, and I remember John Lynch, I think he was doing a show, and he said, "I didn't become a GM to just win games. I want to win it all, man."
Well, I was going to ask you, Ben, but as you played in the dance, so I think it reminds me of what Buddy used to tell me, a story about Paul Azinger telling the story about drawing it back when he's playing at the Ryder's Cup. You know, if you've never been to the Ryder's Cup before, you're up there, you're all decked out, you know, and Zinger talks about how he just can't even draw the club back. You forget everything. Is that sort of, I felt like that would happen, you know, in the second half a little bit, you know, where Detroit's just like, all these guys are like, man, we're waking up because like we're winning, and you start overthinking it a little bit. That's why you saw so many, I mean, drop passes, dumb mistakes, things like that they haven't done all year long. And now all of a sudden, is there just sort of like, hey, this is where experience helps a lot in this process, especially with the coaching staff?
Absolutely. The one thing about pro sports that you cannot hide from is pressure. People say it ain't real. Oh, it's real.
Oh, it's real.
It's real in a way. If listen, they call it a 2P. Well, they call it a 3 Ps. You got preparation, you got pressure, and you got poise. You want to be the third one. You want to have poise in the hardest situations, because no matter what, they pay Dan Campbell to make common sense decisions. They pay you to make the common sense decision. When you don't take the points and you lose by that. You go, hey man, we didn't lose because we didn't take the points. The points would have made them have to score more to beat us. 2 points, 3-point differential in a game is a lifetime when you got to go the length of the field. It makes Brock Purdy have to be more of what he was. He had to show more. Now, when you talk about the players, the thing about Detroit is it took all year to show, hey man, when culture meets culture, one's going to rise to the top. San Francisco got a greater culture than Detroit. San Francisco expected to be there. Detroit was happy to be there. And you see that because most teams go down by 14 points in the first quarter. They're gonna start panicking. And San Francisco go, we've been here before. We got it. We ain't going to panic. We got C-Mac. We got Bosa. You know, we got Varner. You know, we got it top to bottom. We got Shanahan. We've had guys. We got a Hall of Fame GM. We got a coach that came up behind his dad. Like, look, man, I'm living in until I win it. I am Kyle Shanahan's son until I win it. Then they're gonna give me my Jets dues. It's so many. And then we talk about the San Francisco team that's rooted in tradition. Detroit, they make calls up there. I mean, it just is what it is because
that's
Cinderella almost made it to the ball, right?
Yeah.
And
let me throw this one at
you. So you know.
Well, no, you're that's a great point. And it happens with people all the time in sports and in life. People don't think they belong. They're not comfortable being great. And if you are ever around anybody great in sports, in business, it's almost like when you shake hands with them, it's electrical. There's just an electricity. when you meet somebody famous, what is it about them? No, they expect to be great. My dad told me one time, he said, you shouldn't be afraid to be successful. He said, you work your ass off and you just consistently drive and grind and keep going at it. You should expect to be great. Expectations of greatness. You talked about, you're right about the culture. The culture is that everybody on that team knows, I don't care what I got to do. Ronnie Lott one time, didn't he cut off part of a finger during a game so he could play? That's a badass. Yes. That's a football player.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Brenden, you saying you ain't doing that based off where you sitting from. You got to think. You got to think. 90,000 people, 80,000 people are coming to see. Not. You think football players are the most well mentally put together people? No. Absolutely not. There is the only mentally.
Yes, I do. I
think you are though, Ben. You are mentally tough as nails.
So what I'm saying is
you have to be.
The three most mentally stable people on the football team is the kicker, punter, and the long snapper. They are the most, and they're probably the most important. But when you think about this, think about this. I'm gonna run 50 yards. I'm gonna run 50 yards as hard as I can. I'm gonna run into another human being to force him against his will, and I'm gonna do. And if it's a penalty, I'm gonna do it again. And I'm gonna do it again. And I'm gonna do it again. Or somebody almost gets knocked out. You know why they mad? Because they might have to leave the game. No. Somebody got to make them. No, you can't keep playing. Because if it's up to us, football is the greatest moments and memories place you ever. It's all about moments and memories. You don't get. There are players like Takeo Spikes, right? Takeo Spikes, right? Never made it to a Super Bowl, right? Great player. Brandon Marshall, potential Hall of Famer, never made it to the playoffs. All them catches, all them yards, all them tackles. Yeah. And when you think about it, Detroit can say, hey, dude, you know how many people going to say, man, what was it like? What? They're playing the NFC Championship game. What? Because that's the rarest of the rare. Ain't but two teams going to do it every year, and they did it. And the thing about, you even go back to the AFC Championship game. Look, Charles Barkley didn't win a championship because he played during Mike era. Karl Malone didn't win one because he played during Mike era. You know how many players going to say, man, I would have won it. When did you play? During the Mahomes era. Oh, okay. People are going to forget. They're going to just, oh, okay. Because certain players, you get it. You get it. Patrick Mahomes, since he's been starting, he's been in the AFC Championship game. Since he's become a starter, AFC Championship game every single year. And his first year starting in the NFL, MVP of the league. So now he's making the MVP irrelevant. That's what Lamar Jackson is going to win it. But who's more valuable than Mahomes? Nobody.
Yeah.
No. And
Taylor Swift.
So I think that when I'm watching football, and we've seen a lot of it. Brenden, you've seen a lot of it. Obviously, Rob, you've seen a lot of it. Patrick Mahomes make you stand up and go, did you see that? And we've seen a lot of stuff. And we go, Dan Marino throw the football. John Elway throw the football. Tom Brady throw the football. We go, did you see that? And the thing about Patrick Mahomes is he's a did you see that guy? He's saying there's no way he can make that throw, and he'll make it. There's no way he's going to get out this. So that's what I like the most about football. Is honest because everybody wants to be great, like you say, Rob, till you meet them. When you listen, this is what I was told about greatness: arrogance and confidence shouldn't mix. People who are great, it seems like they're a lot of either arrogance or confidence, but it's mixed. I'm not arrogant. They're not confident either. They're convinced. Hey, dude, I just think I can do it. That's what Kobe was. That's what Mike was. So whatever gonna happen in the Super Bowl, which I know I feel bad for whoever got to be on the Taylor Swift cam because they're gonna have to watch her all freaking game. Which
I agree.
But I do appreciate good football. I don't like I like suspenseful games, which they were.
Well, and I do too. Look, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, is going to join us here in just a moment. Let me say something. Get out to the Vitamin Shop today, 5338 Goodman Road, Olive Branch, Mississippi. They've got all the probiotics, the supplements, the recovery, the pre-workout, post-workout, and during the workout. Shot blocks, goo. They got healthcare specialists, nutritionists on site that know what they're doing. You're not going to get a blank stare. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m., 8 p.m., Sundays, 10:30 a.m., 7 p.m., and a new location coming February 12th. It's going to be here before you know it, folks, in Oxford, Mississippi. And we're going to be down there March 2nd doing a live remote of the show. And they're hoping Jackson Dart will be out there. Y'all know him. He's the guy that throws that football around for Ole Miss. And this is Titer Insider Report brought to you by May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa and Northport since 1964. Dr. Wayne May started it all. And now Dr. Waller May, Dr. Guy May, and their associates and all the vet techs and their staff offer the best vet care anywhere. People come from all over. We've taken dogs there. They do a phenomenal job. They also have a dog and cat daycare facility called Camp May with an outdoor pool. And if you got cats that live together, they can stay together with connecting cat condos. Tuscaloosa and Northport. Titer Insider, Rodney Orr. Let's bring him on in here. He also does a great.
We're not seeing Rodney yet. I just texted him. Is he audio only on the phone or is
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, let's bring it. Let's see, Rodney, you there? Tune in, Rodney. Rodney
Orr, Titer Insider. Okay. He said that should work. Okay, we're ready. I'm just going to tell him. Yeah. You've got his number. But we're going to bring Rodney on here in just a minute. But this is also he does a great TV show Tuesday nights. 6:30 p.m. Central with Gary Harris, also WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa. They do a phenomenal show on Tuesdays about Alabama athletics. It's 22 minutes of deep, rich content with two of the best. Titer Insider, it's only $48 a year. Ben, Rodney will be with us in just a moment, but I love what you said. And, you played in the NFL and you talked – were you the one that said on this show, you see all these guys after the games hugging and shaking hands and just smile, just like, hey man, I made it. I know we may have to cut to Rodney in just a second, but people in Dana Marquez, director of equipment operations at Auburn, he came from the 49ers in 2005 to Auburn. He's still there. And now he's working with NFL teams on helmets and shoulder pads. I'm going to get him on here with you, okay?
What's the name again?
Dana Marquez. He came from the 49ers, and he's been director of equipment operations at Auburn since 2005. And back in July, he stepped down from that. He still works in the football complex at Auburn, but he's working with NFL teams. And they went to Northern California to the state legislature in Sacramento back in the fall, and he spoke there. And there was a group trying to get rid of youth league football. Dana said in Northern California, there are 3.9 million kids playing football. Okay? That's the kind of stuff. Dana, I want Dana on here with you. He's really, really smart like you are. And he says, Rob, the collisions that occur in the NFL are like car wrecks. And
yes.
And you said, now look, I don't know how many concussions, if you ever had any. You probably gave a few, but the bottom line is my brother-in-law played tight end at Virginia Tech in a different era, and he's got CTE. He's like 67, 68. He played every sport, small town in Virginia, went to Virginia Tech, played 4 years. You lose track of the concussion. I worked with my friend Jay Stubbs, whose dad was Charlie Stubbs, was quarterback coach, offensive coordinator with Mike DuBose those 4 years at Alabama. Like, how many concussions did you have, Mike, when you played? And he's like 7, I think, that I can remember.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
We can probably say the ones you can remember.
Yeah, and you remember a linebacker, Travis Carroll, that played, went down. He had played at Alabama. He was from Jacksonville, the Bowles school.
School.
Yeah, and so again, I called it. Okay, we're working on that with Rodney, trying to get that worked out with Brenden, and we'll get to him in a second. But I'm gonna tell you, you give such a different perspective when you're on here, Ben. I got to ask you this: watching McCaffrey play running back, who does he remind you of?
Ooh, man.
He goes between the tackles. He's not trying to run wide.
I will say this. When he runs, he kind of reminds me of Marion the Barbarian that played for the Dallas. That's how he runs hard. But he has
remember all those guys.
he has a LaDainian Tomlinson, like Roger Craig, like skill set. Like he's like that. Because he can do it in the passing game, do it in the running game, pick up the blitz. And once again, we're talking about a legacy football player. Daddy, Ed McCaffrey, winning, on them great Denver Broncos teams. But it's something I want to say that you said about the gentleman that worked with Auburn. I work with this company called T11. It's T11R90, to where it's an impact disbursement company, to where we are literally in the business of we are in the concussion reduction business. You cannot stop concussions. You cannot stop them. But with the technology that we have, we are looking to build, better helmets. Our hashtag is a no-brainer. It's T11R90. T11 means team of 11. And the thing about it is, Rob, football is a collision sport. It's not a contact sport. You can touch somebody with your finger. That's contact. No, it is the reason why people watch it, because everybody think they want to do that. Then they see it, they go, well, because, and when we see a person land on the ground, sometimes that's a reminder of just how hard people get hit out there.
Yeah, no, we're going to get into that. Rodney's with us right now, Tighter Insider. And Ben, I'm going to get you paired up with Dana. I'll talk to Dana later today. So we're going to make that happen, because you're able to give insight that very few people have. Rodney Orr, what's new down in Tuscaloosa? I got to ask you this. We get this impression, guys leaving in the portal, coming and going. But you tell the truth. You're a truth broker. Catch him tonight, Tighter Insider TV, folks. It's one of the best programs out there. 6:30 p.m. He's going to tell us all about it.
Well, what do you want to know, Rob?
Well, the main thing is what is happening since Nick Saban stepped down. I don't think we've got a national signing date. The second one, it's kind of a non-event, except I'm pretty convinced. I don't think there's any doubt. Ryan Williams will sign with Alabama. And we talked about that. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, yesterday said Nick Saban leaving really made it even more likely that he would stick to Alabama. And then Kalen DeBoer, he's brought some guys in from Washington, kind of bring us up to speed on the staff changes, who he's bringing in, what he's doing, and paint the picture for us like nobody else but you.
Yeah, well, obviously he's just about got his staff filled out. There's not been any official announcements, but I think everyone has an understanding of, who's here right now. And I think you look on the offensive side, he basically has brought everyone from Washington, and rightfully so, because they've had a great run there, and in the past at other places they've been together. Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, he's done magnificent things. For example, their first year at Washington, he turned around an offense that only averaged 323 yards a game. They averaged 369 passing alone, 515 total. They had the number one passing offense in the country. And this year, they would have been number one again. I think they were it was just like a minute degree that they lacked from being the number one passing offense again this year. But anyway, so they've had a lot of success. The only holdover on the offensive side is Robert Gillespie, the running backs coach. Defensively, I think they have another spot on that they're waiting, but it's basically filled out. So you mentioned that, and then also, Rob, I would think the recruiting. A lot of people said, hey, can this guy come down from, he's from South Dakota by way of Washington, and can he come down south and recruit? And, he's hired some guys that have connections in the SEC. Of course, he's got a couple of holdovers from Saban's staff that have connections in this area. And he just, I think his offense was certainly attractive to Ryan Williams. You mentioned him. I think, he was the key guy, and, he's recommitted now and, expected to sign, whenever he decides to do that, if it's on signing day or if he's going to wait till his birthday on the 9th or whatever. Yeah. But we'll see what happens there. But other than that, I mean, of course, he's brought in some transfers, really good players from Washington. And he's got another commit from a kid that was originally committed to Washington. It's a fantastic player, great athlete. I think he's going to be an incredible edge rush guy. Noah Carter out of Phoenix, Arizona area, who committed last week right after Ryan Williams. So far, I think, he's made all the right moves.
Rodney, Ben, I know Ben Troupe's got some questions for you, but got to ask you this. I'm going to put this one out there. And a lot of people, and they're going to always say, "Oh, Bryan Harsin came from the Pacific Northwest." I think they're two totally different people. Bryan Harsin, he was against his religion to recruit student athletes. He didn't believe in it. He thought he could out develop and outsmart Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. How'd that work out? Good riddance that he's gone. I don't like baked potatoes anymore. I don't feel the same. I'm a sweet potato fan, Rodney. That's just me. But I got to say this. Kalen DeBoer, I spent a lot of time in South Dakota pheasant hunting. Those people up there, they're pretty cool people. They're fun. Kalen DeBoer, he's a 104-12. He took Washington, which was basically a dumpster fire, and in 2 years went 25-3. So I think that offense that he put out there, and Michael Penix Jr. out of Tampa, and Ben and y'all, we know he's a tough kid. He played with bruised or broken ribs in that game. And I'm going to tell you what, that's a lonely shot, that camera shot of him going off the field after they lost to Michigan. But he got him to the national championship. I don't short sell Kalen DeBoer, folks. This guy, he may be from the comparisons to him and Bryan Harsin. I'm saying this as an Auburn man are stupid. There's no comparison. It's like it's like saying something that's four-wheel drive versus non-four-wheel drive. Kalen DeBoer's four-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's a lot of assessments out there, and again, I mean, just because they're from the same area or whatever, there's a lot of people around me right now. We're all from the South. Doesn't mean we're all the same. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? I mean,
exactly.
It's just crazy. But no, look, first of all, let's look at this, Robin. Let's just be honest. Bryan Harsin was never accepted at Auburn. He wasn't wanted at Auburn by a vast majority of Auburn people. And so when you arrive and you're not wanted and not everybody's on the same page, it makes it really difficult. Not only on Bryan Harsin, but, just the program there. Yeah. And, so, I mean, look, Alabama's done it before. We could go back to Bill Curry, I mean, Alabama fans didn't accept Bill Curry from the very get-go. And, it turned out to be he had some success, but ultimately it didn't pan out. He only lasted 3 years. But anyway, I say all that to say, I think Kalen DeBoer, again, you're replacing Nick Saban. There's a lot of expectations here. I think there's a lot of things that still have to play out. But I think right now, the first, nearly 3 weeks, he's made a lot of the right moves. And, I think it's a lot of encouraging things that we've seen from him. But, like I said, it's got to play out.
Yeah, Ben.
No, Rodney. I mean, even sticking with Coach DeBoer. I mean, you look at what Coach Kelly was able to do with LSU, and obviously it wasn't a mess. They just went from, Coach O to him. There isn't a greater place to. I don't know if you have to build Alabama. You must just got to drive that car and don't wreck it. How dangerous could Alabama be with a guy who's used to coming in having to build? Now he really just has to move in.
Well, you made me laugh a little bit because you mentioned Coach O, and I got to thinking, how much better of a fit is the guy that's a Cajun from Louisiana at LSU? And he won a national championship, but that was a disaster. I mean, when he left, So I mean, you talk about fit. He's from right there, and it didn't work out. So anyway, with all that said, no, you make a great point. You make a really great point about, I think DeBoer, but he does have to come in here and be his own self, I mean, he has to do it his way. And that's kind of the thing I'm noticing is he's not Nick Saban. He's not trying to be Nick Saban. He's doing things his way, and they're going to be different. And I think, be honest with you, Alabama fans, now I'm telling you, when they get their minds set in a certain direction, that's the way they think it has to be. And I think there's probably a lot of fans, around the country that follow programs, but, DeBoer's going to do it his way. And but again, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, as they say. And I think he can be extremely successful doing it his way.
Yeah. Rodney, real quick before we get going, we got a lot more questions. You just released a book, and Ben, I don't know if you've seen it, and Brenden, Bigger Than Bama, and it just came out last week. Brenden, if you can put it up there on that screen, about how people can order this, because it's a story that resonates with people from every fan base, every walk of life.
Yeah, really, Rob, I think it does. I mean, it's not just about Alabama. It's not just about growing up an Alabama fan and creating this business in Corpus Christi, Texas, 1,000 miles from Tuscaloosa, that took off on the internet and allowed me to fulfill my dream of covering Alabama football. It's about more than that. It's about real life. It's about things that happened in my life, things that as a husband, as a father, where I made mistakes and along the way. And even though I was living out the greatest dream I ever had, at the same time, I was losing my family. My wife became addicted to prescription drugs in around 2000, 2001. And it was like a 6 or 7 year addiction, that ultimately led to her death. And I realized a lot of the shortcomings as a man and as a husband that I had, throughout that addiction. It really transformed me, and I learned that, I had not appreciated what I'd been blessed with, with the wife and my kids. And there was a lot of neglect there, a lot of self-centeredness. But anyway, it talks about that, and, as well as, all the coaching situations in Tuscaloosa over the years, and, the different transitions that they had and different coaches, and then the hiring process of Nick Saban, and, a lot of recruiting stories, a lot of good Alabama stuff, Rob, but also it's a lot about life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we want people to hear about. I know that it's a story that is bigger than Bama, because it's find me someone who doesn't have something like this going on within their families. Ben, all your years in the NFL, I mean, just the stories that you could write just about just making it there. But I think it's definitely a book for people to order. We've got the QR code. And by the way, it's up on the screen right now. Can anyone tell me what QR stands for under QR code?
I can't.
It just
I believe it's quick read or something like that, because it takes you to the website. So we've got to buy the book. People can just click it right on there. It's also in the chat room. You'll see it pop up. You click on the link, it takes you right to where you can purchase this book.
Okay. And look, Ben, you heard Rodney talking about it. He's been covering. I remember in 1996, my friend John Turner at work was talking about Rodney Orr from Texas. And I think that's when you started it. But Ben, it's you talk about, you ever want a great guest? Him and Gary Harris do this Tighter Insider talking about Alabama on your podcast and your show. This is your guy right here. You ask him a question, he's going to tell you an answer. He ain't going to sugarcoat it.
Which is what you want. I mean, I'm gonna definitely get my copy, Rodney. I mean, I think sometimes when you get a chance to write books about yourself, I think even with people like myself and sound like yourself, who not the most, we're not out there talking about it. We talk about other things, and then you have to talk about yourself. I think it's the part that you don't want to say that's going to resonate the most. That's what I had to learn in my book is, man, just be open and honest about it, especially when you got to talk about other people who probably never going to get a chance to write a book. How do I paint them in the best light I possibly can by also letting them know we all got struggles? And you tell a Bama fan, listen, it's all in the title, bigger than Bama, and they finna pick that up. They finna, what? If you are a Bama fan, there's something bigger than, yes, there is. And I think now it's great to have something to root for, man. I think the thing about a place like Bama football, I mean, listen, only people not from the South, the A, the L, and the A. You do not pronounce it if you from it's Bama all day, man, whether you went there or not. But I commend you on being able to, have enough courage to even tell the truth about, because people see what you're doing, and sometimes it take God giving you exactly what you wanted to show you, hey, man, it's what you wanted, but it ain't all of what you needed. This gonna be the part that, sometimes it's a gift and a curse, and you thank God for it all. But as my daddy would say, man, I said, look, my daddy said, son, as long as you could take the bitter, God will give you the sweet. So we bittersweet people over here, and that's what we look to do over here. Sweet tea and shade trees for life, because when people see us do, like Brenden, yourself, Rob, they think these people ain't got problems. And then I go, oh, I got problems. It's just my perception is bigger than my reality. My perception is so big that you think my reality, I said, look, man, we got problems just like anybody else. The only thing is, as I was told, listen, man, problems ain't nothing but solutions, dress and work clothes. So keep working at it, man. I'm gonna definitely get the book because I like to read about people. And I like to see that way. It's like this. If I know the man, I know why the man does what he does. You show me who he is, I can show you what he does without even him telling me. So, hey man, I'm gonna still root for my orange and blue boys, but I'm gonna say, hey man, I can root for a person that talks about Bama. It's them Bama players that I have a problem with because they don't lose often. They don't ever want to lose, man. Listen. Oh, and to the Georgia fans out there that think that the reason why Nick Saban walked away from football is because of Kirby Smart. When's the last time Kirby beat them in Atlanta? And I know you're gonna say the national championship, but their starting receiver was hurt. I'm just saying he did not leave because of Kirby. He left because he got a lot of money and he wants to enjoy his life. I'm just saying. Yeah. I mean, he has to, it's not because of no bulldog. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Rodney, I mean, he's right. And what's it like now? Waller May Veterinary Clinic, Waller last week when you were on here ordered a copy of the book and Guy got one and they immediately, and I'm going to get one. I can't do the QR code now because I'm doing the show, but you read these books and we have guests that write books. It's a lot of work, but I mean, I commend you. And I'll tell you, you got 12 grandchildren. Ben, he's usually doing this show in between taking someone somewhere. Rodney, that again, it is. I don't care who you're a fan of. You got to love Rodney Orr.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It was a lot more work than I expected. I can tell you that it took 18 months, but it's we're going to have to, when we do our reprint, Rob, hopefully when we sell out what we have now, and when we do our reprint, we've got to add another chapter, man. It's the Kalen DeBoer era now, right? So we got to add how that all went down and how Saban, stepped down and how we were hearing behind the scenes what was happening, 3 months ago, and how I got tipped off to Kalen DeBoer back in late October to watch him, so a lot of things that we'll tell when we add to the book, but again, it's that's not the main point of the story, really. It's actually, like I said, it's about life, and I think Ben summed up a lot of those things really well.
He did, and hey, let me ask you another one. In Tuscaloosa, and I've got a lot of my friends that live in Tuscaloosa. A lot of my friends are Bama grads and got kids there now. How different is it? Because for people that have never won anything big or made a lot of money, they may not or been a part of something. It's hard for them to understand. You criticize fans because they're mad when they lose, but when you win at a big clip in anything, or you're used to making a lot of money and all of a sudden you're not, it's psychologically, it can be devastating. So what's it like there with Kalen DeBoer? What tell about his family? I mean, does he have a bunch of kids? He's a young guy. And I don't know anything other than what you're about to tell me.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I've been through this twice. I went through it 2 years ago, 41 years ago when Coach Bryant stepped down. And the transition from Coach Bryant to Ray Perkins, even though Ray Perkins was a highly qualified coach and he was an Alabama guy, he had ties here. There was a lot of, everything Perkins did, from taking down the tower to whatever it was, wearing white uniforms, white helmets. Everything was scrutinized. He changed from Coke to Pepsi. He did, from Golden Flake to Lay's, whatever it was, Rob. I'm telling you, everything made headlines, and it was really tough on Ray Perkins. Right now, like I said, I think there was, a lot of people see that DeBoer, the success that he's had, and I think that was certainly something that was made it in terms of, okay, we hired this guy. He's a successful guy. We think he's going to have success here. I think it certainly built some confidence, at the announcement in terms of, he's going to be the guy. But at the same time, there's a lot of things transition-wise that I think people scrutinize. Every little thing, every hire, everything that happens. First of all, Rob, it was, if he can't lure Ryan Williams back in, he's not the guy. guy. I'm just telling you what the fans were saying. Okay, he lured Ryan Williams in, and some people are saying, well, okay, he did that, but so I mean, it's a constant, almost like he's it's just part of this transition when you're talking about maybe the greatest coach of all time. It's just there's still a lot of people that are going to scrutinize every move that he makes.
Yeah, Ben, you've seen it. I mean, you were there at Florida when Steve Spurrier left, and then Ron Zook took over. So you were playing through a transition. Does that resonate with you? What Rodney just said?
It does. And the thing is, we talking about legendary coaches as well. Like when when coaches gonna move on no matter what. I mean, Florida State. I mean, they went from Bobby Bowden obviously to Jimbo Fisher. I mean, it's gonna happen sometimes. It's just there's legendary coaches and then there's Nick Saban. I mean, and I ain't taking nothing. Listen, I played with Spurrier, and I know guys that played with Bobby Bowden. I know guys that played with Joe Paterno. Those are different level transition because at a certain point, you really think they're never going to leave. Like you really think they're not going to go anywhere. And
that is true. That is
so the thing
true.
about Nick, So the thing about Nick Saban is go for what? To do what? It's like this. It's not like Nick Saban. Nick Saban won the SEC, right? Kept Georgia out, right? Which shows, man, I can coach still. It's different when the game has passed you by. It's different when people thought it's the portal, it's NIL. No, man, it's the grind, right? If you are Nick Saban, you thinking, look, the one thing Nick Saban has done, the greatest thing he's done is he got all of his hair and it is not great. I don't know how in the hell he has done that. I just don't. I mean, when you look at coaches, look at Mike Norvell at Florida State. Hair is gray, and he's in his early 40s. He's only been there 4 or 5 years. I'm telling you, with Alabama, the one thing you knew was this. It was going to be Nick Saban, and we can live with whomever else. Now that he's gone, it was crazy when I saw a break. Listen, my mom, who was a diehard Gators fan, when I told her Nick Saban retired, she told me stop playing with me. She did not believe me. She's like, Nick Saban, what? Because certain people, listen, when certain people move on, it's national news. Yeah. When Mike retired, when Michael Jordan retired, that's national news. When we thought Tiger Woods wasn't going to play golf no more, that's national news. When Nick Saban said, I'm retiring, the college football world stood still. What? Everybody just said, ain't no way. Because I think that's what he's created. And give a lot of credit to Coach DeBoer. I mean, he understands it. If he don't establish, I don't want to hear Nick Saban, don't say his name in here. Because we get it. There are shoes to fill, and then there are Shaq shoes. I mean, Nick Saban wears his foot ain't that big, but you got some, and I get it when you talk about a guy like Nick Saban. Nick Saban said, "Look, man, I did it at 2 different schools. I was a part. I did it in the NFL, and now I see him, golfing with 50 Cent. So he's enjoying retirement, and he's deserved it. He's earned it. But I just think certain guys are in a class by themselves. I think Nick Saban did." Nobody thought you were going to see what Bear Bryant did. Nobody. Like, you're not going to do that. He did it. And surpassed it. And I think it's an Alabama tradition that's in the class. But listen, Alabama football is essential to what UCLA basketball was when they had Coach Wooden. You're not going to do that stuff no more, man. It's just not. And this is coming from a person who understands it, regardless of where I played and who I played for. When I went into the College Football Hall of Fame, they had Bear Bryant picture painted up there. They had Joe Pa and Nick Saban and Bobby Bowden. I said, why y'all ain't got Nick Saban? He goes, no, they have to be retired first. But we're going to give him his own. We're going to give him – he's not going to be with the greats. He's going to be over there. It's going to be a Nick Saban section, and he's deserved. He's earned that.
You're right. Hey, Rodney, look, I mean, I know you've got a bunch of stuff going on, but this is awesome segment here. And I love these exchanges, and I didn't think about that. You don't think they're ever going to leave. And it is. I mean, you get your life revolves around it. I mean, I drive an F-150 that you can get at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. And I drive that because I'm dog training year round. And I'm out hunting, I'm outdoors, all that. It affects what I buy, what I do. It's same thing with the football program. I mean, you are so, your fall schedule. You don't get married, people, in the South on a football Saturday. That's rude. Okay. I mean, Rodney, I got married to my first wife on a Friday afternoon and wore my suit that I wore to work on the trading floor. I mean, sorry, I'm not saying I'm not romantic, but you got business. I was selling bonds 45 minutes after my first child was born in the labor and delivery room on the phone. I sold 50 bonds. I mean, I love competition. This has been a great segment, Rodney. Like I said, we're switching times around and doing stuff. I appreciate you being flexible today and love having you on. Let people know how they can follow you. Buddy Martin's going to be on with us here in just a minute, but it's always great work what you're doing. Your book, Bigger Than Bama. People need to buy it. I'm going to buy a copy today. I've got that QR code, but I'll let people know how they can follow you. And you never know what you and Gary are going to talk about on Tighter Insider.
Well, that's right. It's
you get there.
Yeah, that's right. TighterInsider.com. If you're an Alabama fan, it's only $48 a year. We have not had a price increase, Rob, in nearly 20 years on TighterInsider.com. But TighterInsider.com, again, it's only $48 a year. If you're an Alabama fan, you can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check, but it gives you all our premium information. We had a deal yesterday on what to expect from Kane Womack's defense, the new defensive coordinator here under Kalen DeBoer. But we had that yesterday and some other things. But also our All Sports Forum, that's our community of Alabama fans. And I'm telling you, it never, ever stops on TighterInsider.com. Of course, you mentioned my book, Bigger Than Bama. You can go to RodneyOrr.com, RODNEYORR, RodneyOrr.com. You can order it from there if you have an interest. But it also detail a little bit on the back of the book about what you're going to read. So I appreciate, Rob, you giving me that opportunity.
Hell, we appreciate you being on here. It's mutual respect. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.
You guys take care.
All right, thank you. All right, hey, look who it is. the coach. Buddy, would you start wearing a whistle around your neck?
Yeah, I got to on here with Rob and teach him how to say 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
Yeah. Ben, just so you know, teach him how to say it, just so we know it's not 50 cents. It's 50 cents.
Everybody.
No, shorty, it's your birthday.
It's like everybody ain't got your timeless swag. No, Rob, and full disclosure, it is still kind of early in the baseball season. I do respect that.
I'm out. Goodbye. I gotta go.
You don't want to start this fight.
I don't have my race hat with here. And look.
No,
my
Rob,
contract.
Buddy ever comes up,
he's not allowed to wear that on my show. That
exactly. Yeah. Me and Buddy said, as long as Buddy don't wear his Tampa Bay Rays, I won't wear my Braves hat. But sometimes Buddy will. But I will say this: if the Rays start balling, Buddy will bring out that Rays hat so fast and let me listen to
I'm just a guy. I'm a committed fan. I'm always there. I'm a quitter.
He is. He talks about the Rays a lot, and you do the Braves. That like, Buddy, I like to say this show on the west end of our biggest listening area, the Western Front is the Cardinals nation.
I'm all right with that.
And then on the eastern side, Braves country, and in between, it's a mix of Cardinals and Braves, and then
Rays.
South, it's the Rays, the Rays all the way down to Key West, which is 91-mile swim from Havana.
Yeah, thank you.
Like swimming with sharks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I agree with you. We need to be learning more about the Tampa Rays. I totally agree with you.
Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody in the South loves baseball and football, and they love.
I go back to today when it's all there was basically. By the way, Rob,
yeah,
congratulations on this new format show.
Thank you.
You get the big stars like Ben Troupe and all these guys here. I have to make sure it's not my show. I look at it. Wait a minute, is that my show? No, that's right.
Listen, we can only go to bed at night and pray to God. We have a Buddy Martin type career. Well, if it is possible, give it to us all.
All right, everyone, calm down, plumping up Buddy Martin. Okay.
Yeah, Rob. Just so you know,
for a moment, okay.
I love this guy. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So just so if everyone's confused, it's getting it sussed out, but the Buddy Martin Show is a part of a channel and in Sideline Sports Network where we're all going to figure out how to make it all work.
Oh, you mean I'm on the same network as Sideline?
Yes,
dang, we're getting big time now.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. It's hard for me when I'm trying to expand operations here, but Rob and is part of our family now. He's in the group. He's got a great show, obviously, because we're doing it all the time. And Ben comes on with you on Thursdays, and it's a lot of interchangeable parts. And hey, it's all SEC football in the end. So we'll have a bigger, better announcement as we do a lot of testing. Some people are watching us on Sideline Sports right now on the YouTube channel. Some are watching on the Buddy Martin Show YouTube channel, which is another thing. But we're testing and we're making sure that we get all this thing sorted out.
Remember,
all still the
Rob
same.
and I were doing this a year and a half ago, just so you know.
We started, buddy. Your first time on here was September 11th of 2021.
Yes,
I always tell people. You were driving on the way from Ocala to Gainesville, and it came up. Brenden was there because we said, "Which way do you go?" And he goes, "This is the way the old Gators go." And we started riding the route going up there.
I-75. We ain't going to I-75. Ben, you know about that.
Yeah, see, you take but the thing is, like I said, I like to tell people, we cover the SEC and sports in the SEC like kudzu and cotton, man. We're everywhere. Yeah. Okay. Ben calls it sweet tea and shade trees. What is it?
Shade
I love
tea,
it.
Shade tea and sweet tea for life. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you what we need to start. I'm going to get Chef Roger on here soon, my friend. And you talk about food.
I want to guy that cooks up the cherry farm. Is that who that was?
No. He worked for Gordon Ramsay for 8 years and lives up in Indianapolis now. And he said most people last 1 or 2 nights with Gordon Ramsay just to say they worked for him. He goes, I lasted 8 years and I'm still alive. And he said, believe me, they doctor him up a lot on TV to make him look nice. Buddy, I got to ask you real quick, that Emmy that Brenden shows on there, you've never told us about that until he showed it. You remind me of my dad. He'll win awards and they'll be over in the corner with newspapers on top of them. And but his favorite award my dad has, it's a horse's ass, only the half of the horse, the ass in. The Curmudgeon Award, he won that one time. I'm like, Dad, you're proud of that? He goes, oh, it's a great accomplishment. But, buddy, you're like most super talented, creative geniuses that I know.
Oh, come on.
They don't even – no, seriously. They don't remember because they've accomplished a lot of things. But I think the cool thing about having you on here is like it's a living newspaper. And when you're on here, remember our town we talked about, Ben and Brenden, you probably heard of Simple Town, USA.
Yeah.
How much is
I'm the mayor.
A subscription to the newspaper is $1 a year, and it comes delivered to your doorstep every morning.
With your milk.
With your milk.
And potato chips in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right, get the big pan of potato chips.
Hey, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you one thing. The cool thing is, buddy, and covering the SEC, you've got people. We've got listeners that are young in their teens, in between. My dad at 95 is listening right now, and sometimes when he doesn't get his internet right,
you raised a good son.
Yeah, Grand Bob. I get these texts from him. He'll hit the internet button, and he won't have his internet right. He'll go, "Is this today's show or yesterday?" I go, "Just listen. Just don't worry. We'll figure it out." But, buddy, I know we having this forum here like we do now. I think Ben may have had to bounce.
Yeah,
off.
he sent a little message that says, "Thanks, I'm great. You guys are terrible." Love you, Brenden. These guys.
I wanted to tell a quick story.
It was weird. It was just
he
had a thing
to do. I know. I just wanted to say about Ben. He and I came together at a time when this country was really upside down and a lot of things going on between races. And Ben helped me sort some things out with my own feelings and background. Yeah, and we had a wonderful, frank discussions about race. And I wanted someone to tell me, help me understand this, because obviously I'm not the same color skin. And Ben was fabulous about that. He really, he did help me with that. And we've become brothers ever since. And now Rob has the best time. He'll go up to a bar and he'll have a picture of me on his phone, be talking to a white guy, and say, "See this guy?" And I say, "He's my grandfather." and they'll look at it. They'll look at him and say, they don't want to say it, how could it be grandfather? He's black and white.
And he says, he pushes him on it. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with this picture?
Well, the cool thing is Ben's perspective playing college and then playing in the NFL is really, really it blows your mind. And I'm going to get him hooked up with Dana Marquez, my friend, the director of equipment operations at Auburn since 2005, who's now stepped out of that role, still works in Auburn, but he's working with NFL teams and with concussion protocol, with helmets, carbon tech shoulder pads, and all this stuff. Ben's right. It's not a contact sport. He said you can touch somebody with your finger, your hand. That's contact. That's a collision. And we're going to get into some cool discussions about Dana. I want Dana to come on later this week. He just appeared before the state legislature in Sacramento, California, and helped to save 3.9 million youth football players from their sport being made extinct in Northern California. Thank you, Dana Marquez. And this guy he is tough as nails. I know people who were managers for him for 4 years at Auburn, but he says, if you work for me, you do it right, I'll get on the phone and call Bill Belichick. I'll call Kyle Shanahan. I'll call Andy Reid. He knows these people and say, I got one. And they know if they made it 3 or 4 years through that, no question. Buddy, what you and Brenden and Ben and Franz Beard, the Gator media cabal down there, you're doing it right. And the synergy, all the interns that you've trained, like our intern, William Halliday at the Auburn Plainsman's a sophomore. He's on every week and he's getting more open. And now he's getting mad when he doesn't get to go cover a story. But y'all give him these young writers, buddy, kind of say something to the young writers who are putting podcasts out. And a lot of them are just a giant run-on sentence. How important is diction, grammar? Because I know that at 95, my dad rips me a new one when I use words out of context. And when I have you on here, I make sure that I indent 5 spaces to the right, even when I send a text, because of people like you and Jack Sims and Buddy Davidson and David Housel and Claude Felton. Y'all are the legends. Norm Carlson, Jack Hairston, Tony Barnhart. I could go on. Keep going.
Yeah, I have a phone call I've got to take here in about 5 minutes. I'm sorry. But okay. I wanted to say to you, Rob, I'll address some of that, but I want to go back to you when we first started this. And you started having me on Saturday mornings. And sometimes it was tough during the season to do a Saturday morning show.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I like this guy. He's smart. He's clever. He's got a future in his business. I want to help him all I can. So I stuck with it, even though sometimes it was a little inconvenient, because I know your heart, I know who you are, I know what you're doing. I think you're getting closer and closer and closer to what, at least what I think you should do. You do a good job. You have a lot of contacts to people. I would have people call me and say, like Lauren Smith saying, who is this Rob Browne? Who is he? What's he about? You're getting guests like that. And I'm always, I told you, honored to be on with you. You know that whenever you have a spot for me. And I'm thrilled that you and Brenden are working together, because I know you got it and I know he's got it. And it's just, look, he'll tell you, we've had a battle for years on things and fight and scratch and claw and fight and trying to get to the one thing we're trying to do and do it well. And I'm so blessed to have Brenden as my partner, as my son, and the guy who's learned and taught, self-taught, and made himself what he is now, who, by the way, knows as much about what we're doing as anybody in the country. I've had people tell me that there's nobody better in the country than Brenden Martin at doing what he's doing. So I'm really proud of that. I thank you for working with him on that. He's
called me 25 cent.
He's a little hard-headed sometimes. You got to slap him around.
No, that's genius. That's the genius at play.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. I got your genius. But anyway, getting back to you, I wanted to say,
it's true.
Congratulations to you, Rob, for staying the course.
Well,
and do it and believe it in something.
Truly, no. Think about it, Rob. You got to look about how far you come. It was not that long ago. I was telling you, buy this camera, get this microphone, do that. That wasn't that long ago. So for you to go from here to here in the world of YouTube and podcasting and all that stuff, listen, that's like lightning fast. it is way fast because there's people out there that start channels and I mean they spend years toiling away and getting nothing. So what it's sometimes because you work so hard and push so hard, which is great, but it's like you're like me, you're like I expect to be right there right now. Why am I not there? But then even for the Buddy, like oh my God, for years with Buddy, we were trying to figure out how to make this work, how to find your audience. And you've already done that a great deal. So you're very good about that. It's just a matter of time where it all puts together. And I think this is why the three of us sitting right here are, brain trust of what are things to become. And I think I'm excited for that. And I think it's going to be something that we can expand on. And I think you've done a fantastic job to get to this point. And
all right, now let me jump in. I don't want to interrupt you, but I got to go and I want to get this in. It's been amazing what has happened in my life in the last 3 or 4 months. I've gone through some sadness and gladness. I've had a fantastic wedding. I've had people calling me. Our friend David Arnoff called me, Brenden, today. Said, what an incredible wedding. This guy's a doctor here in town. And he loves that I'm in Panama City where he's close by. He's got all kinds of ideas and thoughts about me expanding in this area and doing what I'm doing. And he's connected to everybody. And I'm just so happy that he even knows me. He's a huge fan of Brendan's, and he's a huge fan of the stuff. And I'm thinking, God's got his hand on this thing. I swear, because I could never have done this. I've moved a lot of times. I've never seen a guy like David Arnold. And so my point is, somehow, some way, we're going to be connected. And I'll tell you this one story, that when I first started doing the show with you, somebody very close to me said, keep on doing it. And I said, well, I'm really busy. And they said, yeah, but you never know what it might lead to. And so I'm feeling we're getting close here. I don't know what it is yet. I know you look better, sound better. You're good. You're in good hands. If you guys can get along, not beat each other up, you got a great future. And now Brendan's tough, but you know what? Close your ears, Brenden. He's right about 95% of the time. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the other 5% of the time,
99.9 with a handsome carrying case. Okay.
So I was going to say that. And to answer your question, which I forget what it was, about young people.
The message to young writers, what they need to be doing.
Listen, we were all out there on a limb at a young age. I had nobody to tell me I was any good. And I was dying to find somebody to tell me if I'm any good or not. I don't know. And I went to 22, 23, the sports editor at 23. I just didn't know. And then one day the affirmation started coming in. This happened, that happened. This guy said something, won an award, this, that, and the other. And I went on my career and basically on a limb myself, I needed someone to mentor me. Please tell me. And you know what? To this day, I made myself a promise. There's a young person out there who needs my help. I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
To get them, give them the best. And maybe I don't have the answers, but I can at least give them sound advice. They can choose if they want to. So let me stop right there and say, Rob, I love what you're doing. Keep it going, brother. Keep it going. I'm here for you as much as you need me, which is not much because you got your own thing going.
We always do.
This guy can help you. If you have to kick him in the back seat side once in a while to get him going, that's fine.
Oh, there's violence.
By the way, he'll also kick you back.
Hey, the cool, and thank you for saying that, but it goes the same way for you. The bottom line is I've always had coaches and mentors. Coach Dick Fadgen he's the god of swimming coaches, and he could push you harder than anything, and you wanted more of it. I love being pushed. I love being coached. You and Brenden and Ben and Franz and the people we have on the show, I like to go back to the Pat Sullivan Heisman speech. It's not just one person. It's an entire group. And like you're right, I always say at the end of the day, every show, most often we see the face of Christ and the least among us. Go out and help people every day and give back. I talked to young architects that worked for my dad. They said he is the nicest, but he's firm. They said, but he always kept his door open. He paid me on time, and he gave me freedom to design as an architect, and because he trusted me. And my dad is as laid back as Willie Nelson on sleeping pills. My mom is wired like you wouldn't believe, but it's somewhere in the middle between Jennings and Jones is me. So it's fun.
There you go.
But buddy, when you're on, it adds an air of confidence because, I mean, I tell you one of the cool. Yeah. Audrey's on here. Sitting here. Audrey's on here talking here. Say it real quick. But
I think they heard.
Yeah, they heard.
There's the real genius right there. She knows we bonded from right to bat, Audrey.
Yeah.
And I told you got a terrific partner there. She's almost always right. Listen to what she says.
She is, and the thing is that as Pat Sullivan said, you got to appreciate the people around you. But one of the coolest things ever was when I was with David Housel. Took me out after the Auburn Florida game in 1981. Auburn had won 14-12, and I met Jack Harrison of the Gainesville Sun, and he opened up the trunk, and we had a cocktail. It was so cool to be around those people. And that's when you learned a lesson. What is said in that time is off the record. Okay. And the stories and just being around those people and getting my head almost pulled off for cheering in a press box. David also said, I love you, but I'm going to tell you what, you cannot, we are hosting these people, and we have to always remember that they're going to talk about how they were treated, but it reminds you of the way you're supposed to do it when you're on here. I call you coach because you really, it really is like having a coach. I know you got to get on a phone call, but the only easy day was yesterday. And you know, without your audience, your listeners, your viewers, your sponsors, and everybody, you have nothing. And it's all about, you know, serving. But the fun thing about this, Brenden is like taking Chris Kyle in the deer stand with you, American Sniper. You told me about him several years ago. My son Brenden, he's got, and I was like, okay. And we talked to him, and it takes you're speechless because he understands all this complex minutia. It's not many people do. And as we go forward, the one thing we do on here, First Amendment is revered. We don't tell people what to say or how to say it or what to say. Freedom of speech is everything. And SEC, you know, Sidelines Sports Network, too much is never enough, but we're always trying to make it better. And that's
all right, Rob, I've got to go, and I got to get you. Give me one impersonation. This guy is full of impersonations. He can do a half an hour of impersonations, and he just pops into them. It's like he's just done Rodney Dangerfield or something. So
that's
give me what he said. No. Oh, no. Rob's got a whole bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, he's got good ones.
What's the best? What's the favorite one, Rob? Give it to me.
I just love Larry Munson is the greatest announcer. You know, I go back to that Georgia Tennessee game in
he's running over people.
2001 when they hit Michael Haynes. He goes, "We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot." I mean, I love that. And then I asked Lauren Smith one time, so what's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you on the radio with Larry Munson? He goes, well, I did a complete interview on the pregame show on the Georgia network and forgot to turn the mic on. And I said, what did Larry say? He goes, Lauren, what do you got? You didn't have anything. Let's get back upstairs. 86 seconds left. Dogs in a dog fight right now. Half the stadium in orange and blue, the other half in red and black. Oh, my. And
hunker down, you hairy dogs.
Yeah, I want to get Mick Huber on the show sometime. Oh my! The radio announcers when they're on, it's like interviewing Michelangelo about the frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. There's nothing better. Write a book about them. You could write a book about it.
Listen, I'm gonna. You guys, I'm gonna get soon.
We're gonna get
you. Bye.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
I love you, Dad. Bye.
Love you.
Take care, buddy.
But Rob, we're gonna get you and Buddy. You guys are gonna we're gonna pick some topics, and you guys are gonna talk about the history of something. And it'll be such an interesting thing with your love of history of sports, and then Buddy's, you know, actually probably being there most of the time. I think will be a really fun show that we'll do when it's kind of slower, you know, here in the dog days that you're here.
And you know what is the history? I am a fanatical. I love to study the history, and I'd love for you and me to get out on the road. And I've got some people that want to do it with us, do some documentaries, and go to these places like True South does. But we're going to get more into, you know, what are your favorite memories of food and football in the South? You know, where the tailgating, you think about, you have fourth and fifth generation tailgate spots at these colleges, the Grove effect, the Junction in Starkville, Mississippi, all these different places. And the business that is done. During hunting season, at football games, there's 90 or 100,000 inside a stadium, and there's 50 to 60,000 outside the stadium. I want to get this Kelly Leak guy, the Bad News Bears photo on the show. Him and Shoney. We ought to start also, if we could do it, kind of a fan-centric shows where we have some of the listeners, viewers, or whatever come on here and jump on some round tables, and they contribute so much. I get the one you see Rob Anderson on there, Shoney, is invaluable. I get critiqued every day. You'll be hearing from Shoney. I've known him since, we were in college together. He's a Sigma Nu with me from Valdosta. Great friend, but he's a truth broker. I mean, he'll rip you on things, but that's what you want to have. But the main thing is we got a great team, and we build this team. The only easy day was yesterday, and compliments, they're wonderful. That just gets me more fired up to want to do better. But it ain't about us. It's about getting great guests on it. That exchange with Ben and Rodney Orr was fantastic. I wish Chris Lee, Southeastern 14, could have stayed on there. But Brenden, what we want to build on this show, is we talked about, is a one-stop shop where people can go and dial in and cover all these schools in the SEC. And Jackie Sherrill, we're going to talk to Jackie Sherrill about being on next week. You talk about unfiltered and unfettered. You ask Jackie Sherrill, does the dress make me look fat? No, it makes you look huge. I mean, he'll tell you the truth, but I think the guy has a crystal ball, because 32 years ago, he predicted all that's happening in college football today. Your dad's writing. When you read, it's like lifting weights with your brain. We got to have more great writers.
Yeah, well, we will. And we got a lot. And right now, people understand. I'm glad you're enjoying the show and the new stuff. We have so much more to come. This stuff happens, it is piecemeal. And you get one thing. We're glad to be having good, clean shows and changing things around, testing things. So be a little bit patient with us as we figure out our way. But we're always going to bring you the same great content and elevate what Rob's already created and done. And I'm only exist to accent what you've already got going down the right way. And then keep my job is I heard the kittens, right? That's what I do. Everyone, I got the kittens. I got to get everyone in line, and then you guys keep doing your thing, but just keep in my space for a minute.
You're an air traffic controller.
Yes.
Air traffic control. Keep everybody in line. Structure helps and all like that. But
we'll get there. We're going to get there. Did a good job.
And talking about the history, I mean, the Florida tradition, it goes way back before. It wasn't Steve Spurrier, as great as he was. They had some success with Ray Graves. They had some great players like Carlos Alvarez and John Reeves, and obviously Steve Spurrier. But I think about all the great SEC games that we ought to do one called The Best That Were Never on TV. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have to be just SEC. It could be SEC teams playing Florida State or something like that. But history, traditions, and heroes, that's the theme. All right, look, I know we a little bit long, but isn't Simpletown near Lake City? Let's say it's near Lake City because the weather would be nice there. The newspaper is $1 a year, and Buddy is the mayor of Simpletown, USA. And we have 6 TV channels, and one of them is nonstop reruns of the Beverly Hillbillies and the Andy Griffith Show and Gunsmoke.
I think they did a movie like this, I think. So,
yeah.
Was it Truman? Truman was like this. The movie.
Yeah.
Truman.
With Jim Carrey, which I just watched about 2 weeks ago with Audrey. Truman. The Truman Show. Yeah.
The Truman Show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, tell them what we got going on tomorrow. What you know what any of our guests yet? Or
got a great lineup for tomorrow. I know Dudley Dawson will be on with us, as will Jake Wimberly of ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. I was on his show yesterday at 5:15. Love being on his show 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. We're going to get again into tomorrow a lot about college football, the transfer portal, and how high school kids are being affected. I know Urban Meyer, when y'all have him on your podcast, talked about, think about all these high school kids that are getting missed because people are going into the portal. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk some SEC basketball. games tonight and tomorrow night. Those are the big nights during the week. And as always, love to get the comments from everybody coming on here. Hey, Kelly Leak, appreciate folks. Auburn folks and Bama folks need to appreciate one another. Well, here's the thing. If you didn't learn it during the year of the virus, we need each other. I for one, I'm an Auburn man. I'm full disclosure, but on this show and the way I am, I'm objective. I mean, I'm for all these programs. I just want to beat you when we play you. The bottom line is the SEC is more of a family unit than there is anywhere in the country. All right, we are out of here, folks. And one other thing.
Well, you were telling me it was something, and you just started changing your subject.
Yeah.
You said Jake Wimber.
Yeah.
You said Dudley Dawson, but are you going to try to do
Yeah. We'll try to get Vince Ferrara on as well tomorrow from the Sports Animal up in Knoxville. So we'll have all that stuff ready to go. I know we got to get rolling. Went long, but follow us, folks, and we're building Sidelines Sports Network for the viewers and the listeners, and that's what we're here for, to serve. Out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.